WAN technologies will be at the very end of our course, but there are a few terms that you might remember from previous courses, and understand that when we talk about WAN technologies, it can get very confusing. There's a long history of different technologies. There's a lot of overlap in these technologies. Things that were one time not switched, were what we call circuit switched, are now packet switched, and so we keep changing the way that we do things, so it can get rather confusing. First of all, at one time we would hire dedicated lines. If I had an office in Seattle and I wanted to have an office in New York, I might go to my electric company or my phone company, or later on to the ISPs, and ask for a dedicated line. These came in units of T1 lines. You could get multiple T1 lines called T2, T3, T4. You could buy fractional T1 lines, but each T1 line was dedicated channel between me and that other office. Nobody else shared that line. It was just my line and my line alone. Relatively expensive, but they were relatively fast for the day, 1.544 megabits per second, which is not fast today, but certainly was fast at the time. X25 was a similar technology to the T-carrier lines, except that it used it shared lines. So, for example, over the phone system, it would actually do packet switching, which meant that the data was chunked up into packets. Now remember, with a T line, you did not have to chunk it up. It was a dedicated line. You could just send the data serially from one end to the other. But because we're now using that phone carrier, the standard phone carrier system, we would packet switch it, and so I could share that line with somebody else and still have a dedicated kind of connection. This was called X25. ATM was kind of an alternative to IP. ATM was also used by telephone companies to carry long-distance WAN communication over something you might have heard of called ISDN, another system called SONET. Frame relay is a switching system. Now this is an interesting one because you think of switching as being local networks. And indeed what you're building is a long-distance local network. And you have a series of what we call frame relay switches at ISPs that are set up just for this purpose. So you're actually sending data, LAN data, actually it's now called WAN data, even though we're using third-party tools here, but it's like LAN data in that it's layer 2 frames being sent over a very long distance. And it can get confusing here, but we didn't use MAC addresses for this. We use something called DULCE numbers, or data link connection identifier numbers, and you would assign these numbers. You would assign one DULCE number to one device, another DULCE number to another device, and so on, and then set up these frame relay switches, which are usually just routers that are reconfigured as frame relay switches in order to get the data from one end of the country to the other. So that's it for frame relay. Now, the last term we were going to stop at right here is something called a CSU-DSU. This is a device. This is a WAN device that is very similar to a modem. Now, modems convert signals from our ISP to our home or to our business network. A CSU-DSU takes local signals and converts the signals to the format required by the WAN technology. So we call that a CSU, or Channel Service Unit, Data Service Unit. It's one device, one unit, very similar. It's kind of a parallel to the modem, but used for LAN to WAN transfer of information.